Hey, I'm Andrew with 10 Minute Therapy, and we are going to continue in our series on parenting by looking at how we meet the needs of our children. Now, over our last few videos, we've looked at common parenting mistakes and things that really we want to avoid as parents. So for today's video, we want to look instead at what we should or what we ought to be doing as parents. So without further ado, let's start the clock and we will get right to it. So over the course of our last couple of videos, we've looked at common parenting mistakes. In short, we looked at a list of things that as parents we shouldn't do. But it's only partially helpful to examine what we should not be doing. If we never take the time to stop and examine what we ought to be doing, then we miss the mark entirely. So in today's video, we're going to continue diving into parenting, but let's look at the things we should be doing. And rather than give you a bullet point list of things that we should practice, I want to start today with just one concept, one thing, but it's one thing that should, if correctly utilized, should profoundly impact the way you parent. And that is meeting the needs of your children. And I'm going to say that over and over in this video. I want you to lock those words away. I want you to practice them, meeting the needs of your children. I'm going to argue in this video today that meeting your children's needs is the most important goal of all parenting, whether we're talking about a newborn baby or an adult age child that is independent, no longer living with you. Your job, your goal as a parent, your mission is to meet the needs of your children. The question is, how do you identify what their needs are? And how do those needs change from season to season? So to start off, let's talk about what are basic needs that children have. If our goal as parents is to meet their needs, then we need to start with understanding what are the needs of our kids. Now we know early in life, if we go all the way back to infancy, newborn infant children, your job as a parent is not only to meet their needs, but to provide all of their needs. Because you and I both know that an infant is incapable of meeting any of its needs. And so the role of parent is not just meeting needs, but providing all of them. And not only that, but anticipating them, because a newborn baby can't communicate with us to tell us what its needs are. In fact, newborn children have one way of communicating their needs to us, and that's crying. That cry could tell us that a child needs a clean diaper. Maybe they just need to be held and rocked. Maybe they need warmth and they need to be swaddled in a warm blanket. Maybe they're hungry and they need to be fed. Maybe they're tired. Someone needs to help lull them to sleep. All of those basic needs have to be provided by you, the parent. And more importantly, you have to anticipate them, because your child can't tell you outside of crying what its needs are. So from an early age, already you as a parent are meeting needs. When that infant cries, you pick them up, you hold them, you make eye contact just a few inches from their face, because their eyes are not fully developed and they can only see about 6 inches, right? They cry and you hold them, you cuddle them, you apply just a gentle pressure that helps calibrate the nerves in their body. All the things we do as parents, we're meeting the child's needs. And the truth is, most people will instinctively meet an infant's needs. We know that infants need to be held, rocked, coddled, talked to, fed, cleaned, changed. And so starting from a young age in infancy, right off the bat, your goal as parent is meeting needs. Chances are you did a pretty good job with those, because most people do. It's instinctive. It's something ingrained within us. But how do we meet the needs of children, and what are the needs when that child then ages from infancy to, say, toddler years? Well, toddlers have very similar needs, but now they can talk, they can walk, they can communicate little by little, more and more. And as parents, we're still meeting needs for toddlers, but the way we meet them becomes a bit different. No longer do I need to pick that infant up and hold them. This toddler can walk And yes, sometimes that toddler still wants to be held. What does that mean when a toddler reaches up, arms in the air, and wants me to pick them up? It tells me that they have a need for safety and closeness with me. Or maybe their little legs and body are tired, so they have a need for rest in the arms of that safe, gentle, loving parent. We know that toddlers oftentimes throw tantrums. It's part of the twos and threes that we joke about as parents, the terrible twos, the terrible threes, or whatever we call it. But really what we're saying is that a toddler needs a couple things that they're not able to provide themselves, and they don't often know that they need, and they might even resist, including things like a nap. They need rest. Their bodies need time to rest and restore because they are growing so rapidly and developing so rapidly. So certainly a routine for sleep and nap times is a need that a toddler has, and your job as a parent is to meet that need consistently, even though they fight you on it. We know that they need consistent intake of healthy nutrition, not just eating, but protein, vegetables, and fruits. They need to try these different things so their bodies become acquainted with them and they don't resist them later in life. And so here again, basic needs, food, shelter, clothing, rest, are being met by you, the parent. But I want to take a minute here to stop and focus on something that I think is deeply important and often missed. And that is that one of the needs that I believe children have starting around their toddler years and all the way through the rest of their life is they have a need for someone to help them, come alongside them and help them understand the emotions that they're feeling and to help regulate those emotions. Now, hear me out. From a young age, we know about toddler years and on, children start to have tantrums and meltdowns. And as we've already identified, sometimes that's just because they need sleep or nutrition, or they just need time close to you. But oftentimes what happens in a child's tantrum, as we often call it, is that the child is unable to regulate their own emotions. Their emotions are all over the place. And to that 3, 4, 5-year-old, those emotions feel very, very big, and they don't know what to do with them. And it's probably wrong of us as adults to assume that a young child at age 3, 4, or 5 has the ability within them already to know what those emotions are and how to manage them. Therefore, I argue, along with many other professionals, that one of the most important needs that you will meet for your children is to help them understand, manage, and regulate their emotions. Now, the question, of course, becomes, how do we do that? So I'm going to give you a few points right here that I think are important. Number one, identify. Start with just identifying that what your child is experiencing right now may be emotional dysregulation. Maybe they're hungry, maybe they're tired, maybe there's practical things you can provide in the realm of their needs. But maybe there's something more going on. Maybe they're just experiencing big emotion. They don't know what to do with that. So identify that in the moment. Ask yourself, is it possible right now that what my child needs is for me to help them organize their feelings? And for those of you who maybe have heard that phrase before, I'm borrowing from Circle of Security Parenting, which I highly recommend, a wonderful training experience, one of the most informative and practical approaches to parenting that you can take on. But meeting your children's needs also means understanding their emotional needs and understanding that a child doesn't have the ability to understand their emotions. It's not just naturally ingrained within us at that age. And they also don't know how to manage them. So what do? Identify. Start with identifying that maybe what's happening is your child's experiencing big emotions and they don't know what to do with them. Number two, approach with gentleness. What I mean is if your child is already having a tantrum, a meltdown, big emotions, they're dysregulated, and you as a parent impose yourself towering over them, raising your voice and pointing a finger at them, that harshness cannot be received positively by your child. In fairness, most of us as adults would not receive that positively, but a child who's already dysregulated cannot. They don't need you to yell at them. They need you to approach them with gentleness. So identify that what's happening might be dysregulated emotion. And number two, approach them with gentleness. How do we do that? Get down on their level. Get down on your knees. Look them eye in the eye. Give them some safe touch, like a hand on the shoulder or maybe a hug. Maybe rub their back, something that you know your child feels safe with you connecting with them that way. And use that as an opportunity to then start to call out some emotions that might be going on. Man, it seems like Maybe you're really angry right now, or maybe you're really sad. Seems to me like you might be feeling some sadness right now. Do you think that's true? Call out some emotions and help them start to identify with it. You might be surprised that even at a very young age, how a child might be able to say, "No, mom, I'm not sad. I'm really angry right now because I wanted the dino chicken nuggets and we're all out." You and I know as adults, of course, that's a ridiculous thing to lose your temper over, but to a child, that's a big deal in that moment, and their emotions are out of control, and they just need you to get on their level, identify it, approach them with gentleness, make them feel safe, and help them connect the dots in their mind that what they're experiencing right now is an emotion, and there's nothing to be scared of. It's nothing that can't be managed and controlled. Where I'm going with this and what I hope you're taking away is that our role as a parent is to meet needs. And though at a young infancy age, we're really good at meeting needs because they're so practical, they're things like food and shelter and clothing. We know that meeting needs is important even from a young age, but it's not easy if we don't have that within ourselves. If we haven't learned how to manage our emotions, how can we help co-regulate our children to manage their emotions? Now, I'm going to leave you with one final thought because I know I'm pushing towards the end of our time together. I want you to think about this. If meeting needs is the role of a parent, and that's not just practical, but emotional as well, it means that you and I as parents have to learn how to manage our own emotions so that we can approach our children with a sense of gentleness and kindness and safety to help them identify and then regulate and manage their emotions. But here's the other thing. That doesn't stop just because your child makes it to elementary school or middle school or high school. In fact, we know that their frontal lobe, the front part of their brain, that is, their frontal cortex, continues to develop all the way up through age 25. So what that means is that you're going to be helping your children manage and regulate their emotions from the toddler years when it's simple tantrums over chicken nuggets all the way up to age 18 when they're having a deep emotional crisis over college or a boyfriend or girlfriend breaking up with them. Whatever the case may be, it's the same need that's being expressed in your children's behaviors. And that need is, help me to identify and manage my emotions. Well, as you can see, we're jumping into the end of our time here. So I'm going to pause here today, and I'm actually going to help us by saying we're going to come back to this topic next week and touch on it just a little bit more because 10 minutes simply isn't enough time. But it's enough time today to help you remember one thing. Your role as a parent is to help meet the needs of your children. And while you might meet practical needs, food, clothing, shelter, etc., I want you to consider, what does it mean to meet your children's emotional needs? Think about your child right now, whether they're infant, whether they're toddler, whether they're elementary age, middle school, high school, college, adult. What emotional needs does your child have right now? And how can you as a parent meet them at that place and help meet the need that their emotions are expressing? We'll come back to this topic. We're going to dive more into meeting emotional needs. In the meantime, I'm Andrew with 10 Minute Therapy. God bless.